All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and again, welcome. My name is Quisha Brown, and I serve as the program chair for Washington Evaluators. I'm also the executive director of Humanistic Care LLC, where I work at the intersection of community-based services, evaluation, and systems change. On behalf of Washington Evaluators, I want to thank you for joining us today and extend a very, very warm welcome to our partners at the Data Foundation. We're really excited to host this session because it speaks directly to our mission at Washington Evaluators, and that is to strengthen the evaluation practice, build evidence capacity, and support evaluators in using data to improve outcomes across government, nonprofits, and communities. As evaluators, we often talk about evidence-based decision-making, but accessing the actual federal evaluation infrastructure has not always been easy. Since the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act went into effect, agencies have been required to publish learning agendas, evaluation plans, and other strategic documents that show what government is studying, why it matters, and how the evidence is being used. In theory, this creates an enormous opportunity for transparency, learning, and partnership. In practice, those resources have been scattered across dozens of websites, organized inconsistently, and sometimes even lost during transitions. This fragmentation creates real barriers, especially for practitioners who want to align their work with federal priorities, learn from existing methods, or even identify opportunities to collaborate. That's what makes today's webinar so very important. The Evidence Act Hub, developed by the Data Foundation, brings these materials together in one searchable, accessible place. It doesn't just simplify discovery, it creates infrastructure for learning across the evaluation ecosystem. For evaluators working in federal contracting, state and local government, nonprofits, and even research, this hub offers a very powerful way to understand agency priorities, track evaluation planning cycles, explore methodological examples, and identify opportunities for collaboration and capacity building. From Washington Evaluators' perspective, this aligns deeply with our commitment to helping evaluators stay informed, connected, and equipped to do meaningful work in a rapidly evolving evidence landscape, especially as expectations around accountability, learning, and impact continue to grow. Personally, as someone who works closely with families and public systems, I also see this as a step toward making evidence more usable, and not just for policymakers, but ultimately for communities. When evaluators have better access to information, we're better positioned to design work that's responsive, equitable, and grounded in real-world needs. We are so very grateful to be joined today by Sara Stefanik and Nathan Varnell from Data Foundation Center for Evidence Capacity, who will walk us through the hub and share what's coming next, including how practitioners like you and myself can help shape its future. Thank you again for being here and for the important work that you do as evaluators. We will be addressing your questions after the tour, so please feel free to put those in the Q&A. And with that, I'm pleased to hand this over now to Sara and Nathan. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. And Quisha, thank you so much. And a special thank you to Washington Evaluators for inviting us to host this webinar today. We're really excited to give you a tour and get your feedback on our Evidence Act Hub. Before we start, I want to highlight a different initiative, and we kind of wanted to do an icebreaker with the group. So, right now, we're currently accepting nominations for the People's Data 100, which identifies data sets that provide the greatest value to Americans. So, our deadline for this is February 28th, and the final list will ultimately impact the Data Foundation's advocacy agenda. So you'll see a word cloud on your screen, and we want to take this opportunity for you to participate and see what you think are the most important federal data sets. So I'm going to give you all a minute to join us at Slido, and the number is there on your screen. And yeah, we'll give you a minute. We would love to hear from you and also give you the opportunity afterwards to then go to peoplesdata100.org to submit your data sets so that we can make sure that we include them in our list. So as we do that, we know this is just a really important initiative for us. We want to make sure that we are talking about the importance of our federal data partners and the data that they produce. And I see you all are putting some in there as the word cloud changes. So give you some time, the various ones that come through from all the different policy areas. Great, thank you. It's actually really fun for me to watch these come in, for them to change on my screen and things like that. We'll keep that Slido open and we'll keep this word cloud in the background and we'll share out eventually. But like I said, this will inform our People's Data 100, and we definitely, again, encourage you to submit at peoplesdata100.org so that we can make sure we capture these for the record and they inform our work going forward. With that, I'm going to move on to our Evidence Act Hub. So, in this session, I'm going to just give you a brief overview about who we are, what the Evidence Act is, and then I'm going to turn it over to Nate to talk about the Evidence Act Hub and other things. We also have, like Quisha said, some time for questions, but we're going to focus on that tour and also an interactive section with some polling for your feedback. So with that, let me tell you a little about the Data Foundation. The Data Foundation is a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C., and we champion the use of open data and evidence informed public policy to make society for a better everyone. The Data Foundation has the Center for Evidence Capacity, which is my team. We also have the Center for Data Policy that focuses on open data policies and procedures, data privacy, and AI policy as well. We are a nonpartisan think tank, and we conduct research, collaborative thought leadership, advocacy programs that advance the practical policies for the creation and use of accessible, trustworthy data. My center, the Center for Evidence Capacity, focuses on what we say happens after the data is created. So we focus on the research, the evaluation, the policies, the people, the processes on that, things like learning agendas and research plans, which Nate will talk about in the hub. So, as we move forward, before we dive into the Evidence Act Hub, we are experimenting with polls in this webinar. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act, but we want to ask you all, how familiar are you with the Foundations for Evidence-Based Policymaking Act? I'm going to give you about a minute here, and so please respond. It'll help me inform some of the talking points I use when talking about the Evidence Act. Thank you, everybody, for your answers. As you can see, we have some people very familiar with and somewhat familiar with, and you know the basics. So thank you for responding. Let me just give you a very brief overview of the Evidence Act. I actually had the privilege of serving on the Commission for Evidence-Based Policymaking, which informed what went into what we fondly call the Evidence Act. So this transformed open data and formalized federal evidence building activities. There were three titles that you all might be familiar with, one around capacity, one around confidentiality, and one around open data. And so those three titles form these different various leadership roles. So the chief data officers over open data and all those data related things, evaluation officers that work on the learning agendas, the research plans, and things like that, and then our statistical officials. And then also they created requirements around different documentation to help inform evidence building plans, capacity assessment, open data plans, and the guidance has rolled out in a very different pace. And the most recent was the Open Data Plan and the Open Data Guidance. And so as we move forward, we started noticing then there was this need to find all this information in one place, and there was a lack of centralization. So that is really what informed the work that Nate is going to be talking about. And with that, I'm going to turn the conversation over to Nathan Varnell. He is an analyst here at the Data Foundation on the Center for Evidence Capacity. Nate, you can take it away.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and thanks for the overview on the Evidence Act. It's good to see that a lot of people are at least familiar with the basics, because we'll have plenty of opportunity as we go through the demo here to talk about each different element that falls under the Act. The Evidence Act Hub itself is a digital repository and a knowledge platform that is meant to bring together not just all of the plans and resources and officials listed under the Evidence Act under one place, but our hope is also broader data and evaluation activities and toolkits and knowledge from federal agencies to be shared widely with the evidence community. The hub itself at the state preserves and organizes reports from the 24 cabinet level Evidence Act agencies under different evidence plans, reports, and toolkits. But it's also a living archive that we're hoping to build on with further analyses, reports containing both our past work of staff and fellows and future work that we're hoping to put together from this central venue. Our hope is that pooling and sharing these resources will help the community grow stronger data and evidence practices, both from the lessons of the Evidence Act and beyond. Next slide, please. Why now? We've built the Evidence Act Hub not just to meet the current moment, but also long-standing needs that have been identified by many data and evaluation professionals. Both those in and outside of government have proposed ways to centralize these resources and make them as available as possible for years now. Some of you may be familiar with Evaluation.gov or CDO.gov, where many federal evaluators and data professionals led the charge to provide plans and documents to identify leaders and link out to the very many resources around evidence building activities in government. But we haven't had the full universe of Evidence Act materials, or certainly not the full universe of evaluation materials in government, all in one place. And the hub is a first foothold in trying to make that happen and also put it outside of government and unaffiliated with government. At the Data Foundation, we spend a lot of time tracking the many changes to federal programs, funding, and leadership, so we've kept an eye on the foundational documents here that guide the work of data and evaluation professionals. And in 2025, when, like many people, we started to notice things were being taken down or changed and public access was disrupted, we started doing some archive work. From that, we reported on the changes that we saw in our Evidence Capacity Pulse Report series, which some of you may be familiar with. The Evidence Act Hub has come out of that important archival work, but also is hoping to build past that to identify long addressed needs. I want to clarify before going forward that this isn't a data rescue initiative. In the past year, many organizations like the Data Rescue Project and others have launched initiatives to catalog data sets and the like we were talking about at the beginning with People's Data 100. But the Hub distinctly focuses on the frameworks, strategies, and reports that have come out of agencies in fulfillment of the Evidence Act and out of the challenges that we've identified over time in accessing and using these resources effectively. So these are the kinds of challenges we've identified and been hearing about. And as we continue this work and before we get into the demo, we're hoping to learn even more about the challenges facing the evaluation community in capacity building and in making use of these resources. So we have another poll for you. First, we have, what has been your biggest challenge in finding and using federal evaluation resources? A, not knowing where to look. B, documents being scattered across different agency websites. C, documents moving or disappearing during transitions. Understanding which documents are most relevant or up to date. Or maybe you haven't experienced challenges with this. Maybe you've experienced other challenges, and we certainly want to hear about that. I'll give you a moment to answer some of these. I know that my biggest challenge has certainly been documents being scattered across different websites or moving around. In the work of monitoring, that has definitely been our biggest challenge, is just knowing where to find those in the first place. So let us know what your thoughts are, what your challenges are, especially They're not listed here, and I will be able to give you a tour about just how the hub can meet some of those challenges. Okay, so not knowing where to look, leading, documents scattered or moving, about tied, and understanding which are most relevant kind of in last. I feel like that tracks with our experience, and it's definitely been a consistent problem for a while. So let's talk about what we're doing about it. For the hub's launch, we organized the information in the hub into two main areas. Our larger area, which you'll see momentarily, is our evidence plan archive, getting the laws and guidances, the strategic documents, the resources, and the tracking officials all in one place. Alternatively, we also have a news and reports section where Data Foundation produced materials are available for you to track ongoing developments, see some of the analysis into the future, past and future of evidence infrastructure, and so forth. This is where work that you may have heard of previously, like our pulse reports or our evaluation officer survey, currently live. Each section of the evidence plan organizes these documents in a consistent format with options to download them in PDF machine readable formats or to go directly to the source of government websites in the Internet Archive. This will also give you a bit of a sense of what's active, what's maybe been taken down, and what's still out there. Our newest feature of the hub, which I'll also show you in a second, is our evaluation officers tracker, our Evidence Act officials tracker, which just launched in the past week, and it'll show you who is actually leading these agencies and how. Regular updates to the hub are going to be provided to the site on a monthly basis as agencies release new documents, make changes to existing plans, and officials change positions. And in the future, we also plan on adding more features, but that being said, why don't we take a live tour here? This is the Evidence Act Hub landing page. This is what you'll see if you go to evidencehub.org, or if you go to our Data Foundation website, go to Initiatives, and scroll down to Evidence Act Hub right here. Both pretty easy, direct ways to find it. And when you come up on here, you'll be greeted with a little bit of About page and our menu of options here through the hub. Our news and report section, as I was just discussing, and the evidence plan archive through here, and our officials tracker here. On our homepage, just briefly before we get into the meat of things, we have a search function where you can, if you have something specific in mind, say our survey of evaluation officials, you can search that and easily look at all the resources here that we've provided on CDOs and evaluation officers, and also some extra resources like stakeholder engagement, so forth. And scrolling down, we have more contextual information about what the Evidence Act is, why we did this, the team behind it, and our contact information so you can give us questions, feedback, and ideas. All right, let's take a look at, say, you're looking for learning agendas. Learning agendas being the plans that organize agencies' research questions as roadmaps for their evaluation activities. We have on every page about the key plans here, the contextual information about what these plans are, what they do, and how you might use them for learning. You will also see all the 24 agencies covered by the Evidence Act here with a variety of options for how to download and access their tools. In most cases, say with learning agendas, it'll be a single plan for 4 years. But I think the Department of Energy is a good example of the kind of variety that we get between agencies, where each year there was a slightly different document that marked their progress, and each document also contained their entire learning agenda, capacity assessment, and evaluation plan. And we've been sure to note these kinds of variations in how the Evidence Act is applied as we go. Say you want to understand what the agency's priorities were in 2022, you can go to the direct download. It takes just a second and open that plan, and you'll be able to look at the learning agenda here. Or going back, you can go to the agency's source web page, see where we got it, and if the link is still live, hopefully be able to explore that. In the case where the link is not live and the source web page is inactive, we're also providing Internet Archive links, which will take you out to the Wayback Machine, and is, for the most part, where we got the documents that are available for download. These latest snapshots before anything went offline. And again, takes a little time to pull up these, but you'll be able to see there it is, Department of Commerce Learning Agenda in all its glory. All right. And this is available for all the 24 agencies. And as time goes on, we're going to be adding new updates as new learning agendas and evidence plans come out in the future, and likely in the very near future. Say you're interested in the laws and guidances dictating these plans. Maybe you're interested in the federal evaluation standards that are guiding activities in government. You'll see a submenu here between the laws, memos, circulars, and going in. You can access a very similar page like the learning agendas, which provide context and the direct links to those as well. Now, our newest feature, and one I'm very happy to show off here, is our Evidence Act Officials Tracker. This page will provide a variety of information, and hopefully even more soon, on who is leading the agencies and different agency units dedicated to data evaluation and federal statistics. These tables, as you'll see here, chief data officers, evaluation officials, statistical officials are organized by type, and will provide a table where you can look at, say, we want to see who is leading Department of Energy's learning agenda. Can go down here into these tables and search exactly for that. Department of Energy, Joshua Jones, right here. We will update on a monthly basis, or in some cases more frequently than that, and provide this as soon as we can when new updates are available. These tables are downloadable in CSV format, but you can also modify them just here in the table. Say I want to see who's an acting official. We got those who are not and those who are fully instated. We've got vacancies in the positions, and we have one acting official here at the Department of Transportation, acting Deputy Assistant Secretary. There's a lot of different ways you can view and modify this information, and I encourage you to explore it. Last but not least, we have the news and reports section, where we're going to provide Data Foundation staff and fellow analysis and resources, both those past and present. Here you might find rapid response resources like our Shutdown RIF impacts tracker, our Chief Data Officer survey, our analyses of agency learning agendas from 2024, or many others, and there's a search function here too. So everything should be very accessible, very easy to explore, but we want to get your feedback, especially for if there's better ways to present this information, if there's certain things you might be looking for, and how we might improve this going forward. Last but not least here, definitely encourage you to explore. And I'll say again, the best place you can reach us is at evidencehub at datafoundation.org if you're interested. I'll stop sharing now and pass it back to Sara and Quisha.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nate, and thank you everybody so far for participating in the polls. I think we're going to start with some questions that, we've gotten in the past from others just to do a little bit of clarification. Keisha, I'll throw that to you, and Nate and I will answer to the best of our ability.
Yeah, sure. We do have a few questions here. So the first one, and either of you can answer this, what would you say is the importance of the hub for evaluators today?
Yeah, I would say just going back to kind of what we heard and it being reaffirmed by the polling is it's having it all in one place. We're not reinventing the wheel. These important documentations, this important information has existed and it's out there, but it's just been very hard to find. And we did a kickoff webinar about this, and we kind of talked about the same thing. And those challenges that are faced not just by evaluators, but researchers, congressional staff, federal officials, and things like that. Like, where are those relevant documents? And, political transitions happen all the time and things get moved. So, how can we find them? And also, the transparency, knowing that these things exist and they're out there and that they can be easily be found. And how can we take those and make sure that they're in the hands of the right people? So, for the evaluation community, also, really honing in on those learning agendas and seeing what the research priorities are in your policy field or things like that, and how they match up with what you're doing, and how, Quisha, kind of talking about the work that you do, how they really reach out to communities and how community centered are they. And so having that in one location, I think that's, that, and that we are also acting kind of, as Nate mentioned, as that archive or that repository so that they stay there and they live there and that they're available for use, not just for our evaluation community, but for others as well.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, next question here. Can you tell us more about who the audience is for the hub? And do you think this audience can grow beyond just evaluators?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take this one too, if that's okay. I think, it's just the entire data evidence and research community. It's all those that are impacted by, federal data, federal research, those that make it, those that use it, things like that. And also something that we've really focused on as a center recently is making sure that we're not just working with federal, state, and local governments, but that we're including our academic partners, program-specific people, community organizations, those that I don't want to say would get overlooked in this conversation, but the Evidence Act impacts federal agencies the most, but federal agencies impact others. And so we think, or at least I think that the community can grow and those that use it. And then as we start adding new things, like maybe a fellows corner where our senior fellows at the Data Foundation provide white papers and trainings and things like that, we can start reaching other audiences too that want to learn more about the work that has come from the Evidence Act. So, yeah.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Let's see, next question here. What is your hope for the future of the hub and expansions?
I'll take that. Yeah, thank you. I think Sarah's already tackled a little bit about this here. I think there's a lot of things that we want to do in the immediate term, and especially things that we want to immediately prioritize based off of your feedback here in the webinar, you, the audience. But also there's longer term hopes for how this can serve the community as well. In the short term, such as with the Evidence Act officials tracker that we showed, we're hoping to very soon add dashboards that show, where there are vacancies in leadership, the duration of those vacancies, and so forth. We're also hoping to show dashboards around that provide immediate analysis into, say, the array of questions that are being asked by agencies and the progress that they've made on those questions and learning agendas as they align with strategic goals. Those kinds of more immediate real-time data that can serve transparency into federal activities, but also help the evaluation and data communities identify, hey, there's a need here. Maybe we can contribute to this. Maybe we can form partnerships to fill that need. So to the broader end, the longer term end, I think we're also looking at how we can open this up more for the evaluation community to contribute as well, so that this can be a growing pool of knowledge, collective knowledge about strong practices, about strong capacity building beyond just the Evidence Act framework. It may be called the Evidence Act Hub, but we want this to also be something that can trickle throughout state and local governance, tribal governance, public organizations and programs of all kinds. So we're really looking forward to launching and gradually growing the interactivity of the platform as well.
Okay. Next question here. Can you tell us more about where the information in the hub came from and how evaluators can contribute to the information in the hub?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we noted earlier, this builds very directly on the fantastic work that was done on resources like Evaluation.gov and CDO.gov. And we definitely don't want to discredit the hard work that was put into those resources by federal employees. But some specific ways that this departs from that is by combining these different resources across the whole universe of the Evidence Act into one place. Most of the information comes from federal agencies directly, some of it not available on resources that previously brought things together, like evaluation.gov, and hopefully in a way that provides more historical longevity for resources that are no longer available, such as those provided through the Internet Archive and other sources. We also want evaluators to be able to contribute to it. For now, that's best to do through evidencehub at datafoundation.org to email us directly. But we're also looking at ways that you might be able to submit more directly through forums and other features in the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keisha, if you don't mind, I'll add into that because I saw a question come through in the chat and Nate briefly mentioned it, but it was how are we different than evaluation.gov? Something that we set out to do was to be a centralized location of not just evaluation resources. And I realize, this webinar, we're talking to the Washington Evaluators community and some others, but um, as Nate said, we don't want to just count any of the work that's already been done. We know there's evaluation.gov, there's statspolicy.gov, there's the CDO site as well. But something we had consistently heard is there's just not one location for this. So to reiterate Nate's point, we created this as a centralized place, like a one-stop shop almost. And it's starting with these documents and that tracker, and you can see them all in one place, but we want to grow it as well. But yeah, again, I just want to give recognition to what has already existed out there.
I'll also just add, lastly, we also think there's a lot of value, and hopefully we're going to be able to build on this very soon and being able to compare and see how data practices from CDO offices or statistical officials closely relate to the work of evaluators, so that all of these essential functions of government can work very closely together instead of in siloed areas.
Yeah, very good. And I do see a couple other questions in the chat too as well. Here's one. Do you plan on including strategic plans? These are very helpful when looking at learning agendas.
Yeah, actually, that might actually be a really great segue into our feedback session too, Keisha, because something we're looking from you all today and the larger community is what else would be useful? We came at this as something initially with those core Evidence Act documents, which is reflected in the tour that Nate gave and what's on there, but we're open to other suggestions and similar things we've been like thinking, maybe strategic plans or, as AI grows, different things related to that, so that again, we're just bringing it all together in this repository archive-like situation. So to answer that question, yes, strategic plans can be something we also include because of the value that was mentioned. And this is the kind of feedback we're looking for everybody. So thank you for that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. I see another question here. Is contact information available on how to obtain it from the agency website? This might be in reference to something you all mentioned during the tour.
I think I understand the question, and if so, the links directly in many of the cases with the say learning agendas, the links directly to the web page should provide that. But also in our Evidence Act officials tracker, there we link to the evidence landing page, the data landing page, the statistical agency central home pages that should help you navigate to those resources.
And I just saw a list of questions from Shelley. So you want to go through those one by one? I think we have
I
time. Or
I think that actually speaks to some of that feedback we're looking for. So what we can do is pick this up and consider it internally as things that we can add or things like that. Let me see if there's any of these that we can answer right now. No. Actually, these are all things I think we can tuck away and capture those and consider those for future feedback. And then I think with that, Nate, if you're good with it, we can switch to some of those interactive feedback pools. So the way we structured this last part of it is how we're going to shape it. So I'm going to turn it back over to Nate to walk us through some of these.
Yes, absolutely. So we reiterated, we really want your feedback is crucial to this. Those questions that have been posted are fantastic, and we want to be able to both do all of these many things, but prioritize the ones that will be most effective as soon as possible. So some simple questions like how accessible is the website and the archive material, those are very important to us. But the future editions is really going to guide a lot of our work. So if we can move to the poll here. Our first question of two is, what hub feature would be most valuable to you? Out of a lot of what's already provided and a little bit more, what do you think is most useful to you in your work? The searchable archive of documents, the expert analyses on federal evaluation, directory of leadership, best practice examples and methodologies, or maybe all of the above. Maybe all of them are useful. Whichever one you feel speaks to be the highest priority to you and your work, I would really appreciate you answering that one.
Yeah,
This will
and
help us
also,
prioritize. Go ahead, Sarah,
oh, Nate,
please.
I was going to say also to the last question that came through. These are just some polling questions we put together, and we know that you may have other ideas as well, and that's why we provided that email address because we'd love to hear those. We want to create basically a list, like a list of things that we can do to keep enhancing this and keep growing it, so that we're making sure that we are meeting the needs of the community. So, but yeah, but
Yeah.
these are really helpful. These polling questions are great, but if you have more ideas, please send them to us.
All right. What do we got? So it looks like best practice examples and methodologies definitely leads. I understand why. I'm usually looking for that kind of thing. Searchable archive, all of the above. This is great. This is really fantastic information. And we appreciate it. Let's move to the next poll question here. What additional resources would you like to see in the Evidence Hack Hub? So while the first one prioritizes what we have and are doing so far, this is what we'd like to prioritize next. More guidance on evaluation methods, case studies of successful federal evaluations, templates and tools for evaluation planning, training materials and webinars, such as from senior fellows or former federal officials and so forth, or networking opportunities with other practitioners. All of these are ideas that we're currently discussing and we feel might be valuable to the evidence communities. I think the general theme with this one is kind of the medium of delivering information on evaluation guidance. All right. Looks like case studies. Okay. This is great information. Case studies of successful federal evaluation leads, followed by templates and tools, training materials and webinars, and more guidance. This is really great help. All right. Thank you all very much. Thank you all very, very much. This is very valuable insight. Will definitely guide the future of our work. I think we're excited to see the enthusiasm and even more excited to be able to make these additions. There was one question just before we continued the closing about when there might be updates on things changing to documents and so forth. With both the regular updates to the materials and that are already in the archive and these kinds of additions, we're definitely hoping to provide blogs and other brief updates on a month-to-month or quarterly basis in our news and reports section. So definitely be on the lookout for those. All right. Thank you all very, very much for participating. Thank you, Washington Evaluators, for the warm welcome and for hosting us. Sarah, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm just going to echo that. Thank you again, Keisha. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. And hopefully we can continue series like these. And to our audience members, we truly can't do this without you. We can't build a better hub. We value your feedback. Please reach out directly for anything you might need from us on this. And also, just focusing on some other initiatives. We just came out with a new podcast, which has been dropped in the chat. Check that out. We plan on putting that out as a series. But thanks again. And Keisha, anything you want to flag for Washington Evaluators before we wrap?
Yeah, so just want to thank you and Nate again for this amazing session. Thank you all for spending today with us. We hope that this gave you some valuable tools, insight, and inspiration. If you have enjoyed today's session, I encourage you to stay engaged with Washington Evaluators. We do offer several different types of learning opportunities, community connection, etc. And I am going to drop for you in the chat a link to our volunteer fair that we'll be having soon. So if you'd like to volunteer with Washington Evaluators, or you're just looking for membership or anything you might be looking for, please join us. We would love to have you. And with that, just thank you, everyone. And I love all of the hearts and everything going up in the air. So thank you.